What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And the Supreme Court did something I do agree with, and it has to do with a case called Mattel versus Tam, where there was this band that wanted to call themselves the Slants, and they're Asian American, and they thought this would be cool. And the U.S. Trademark Office said, no, you can't call yourself that. And the Supreme Court ruled that just because something is offensive, might offend somebody, you can't suppress it. And so they have basically overruled this federal trademark restriction that you can't register a trademark that might offend somebody, which I think would be good. I mean, I remember early in my advertising career, there was a phase the ad industry went through of deliberately being offensive to try and attract attention. So, yeah, bad words are protected free speech, except here on the radio. All right, we're going to grab a phone call. Mark in North Carolina, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Mike, I was watching that interview yesterday on Alex Jones' show. He extended it, and you know, him and Mike Smirnovich and a couple other people were going through it. Two mistakes he's made, okay? One is he's got to stop backing away from Sandy Hoax. He's got to start going and, you know, mentioning Wolfgang Halbig. He should have Halbig back in his show again. He's got to show all of the indiscrepancies to show that, I mean, it's so obvious that this is a hoax, that nobody actually was killed, that Adam Lanza never even existed. And he's got, the other mistake he made, I think, is he should have told Megyn Kelly, you know, I know you're going to, and he did know she was going to start editing the whole thing. So
yes.
He should have said, if you want to interview me, you interview on my show, live, so there's no BS, so everybody will know that, you know, everything I say, and you won't be able to edit or anything else. Those are his two biggest mistakes. I don't think it's going to hurt him, really. I think he did a good thing by taping her, at least, you know, and showing her to be a liar.
Yes.
She is, when she said she's going to, but I think he could have blown her out of the water had he done it properly. I don't think she would have even taken a challenge like that as far as being on his show, but you never know.
Now the version you're talking about on Alex Jones is the unedited one that he put on out there late last week to basically get around the fact that Megyn Kelly was going to edit the interview to make him look as bad as possible. Correct?
Right, but yeah, that, and also the fact that he actually got her to. He showed that from the time she first called him, he recorded all of that and showed that she was. You know, she said, "Oh, I'm not going to do. I just want to do a little profile on you. I'm impressed by the way you handle yourself in a custody case. I realize you're a father." You know, she tried to butter him up that way.
Yeah.
Whether he fell for that or not, I don't know, but at least he did tape it. But then again, he's got. I made all kinds of comments on it because I saw it on my Facebook. I was watching on my Facebook. I'm getting it now. I get it in the show, and I kept on commenting. Stop backing away from Sandy Hook. Even Steve Pieczenik, you know, the former, the psychiatrist and the former CIA and military man and everything like that, who now, you know, even knows that 9/11 was false flag. Even Pieczenik was telling him that Sandy Hoax is false. But he kept on going a bit, I don't want to, you know, those kids, you know, they lost their kids. Nobody lost anybody. These are actors. They were there for about 2 or 3 years. They all came there about the same time. Okay. A lot of people had their mortgages paid off.
Yeah.
It was, the Homeland Security had already had that thing, had signs out days before this thing even happened. It's so obvious that this is a fraud.
Yes.
And I don't know why Jones is backing away from it. He was the first one, as far as I know, to bring out that this was he was the first one, I think, that had Wolfgang Halbig on. And you know how Halbig got involved? Halbig is a regular guy. He's a retired teacher, and he doesn't have a whole lot of money. And you know what got him involved? he was a school security expert at the same time. People used to call him for security stuff, and he tried to give some. He tried to find out what happened and give some information how they could prevent something like this again. And he got Lake County Sheriff's deputies. That's the county he lives in Florida. Lake County Sheriff's deputies came to his house and threatened him.
Yeah.
Because they said the cops in Connecticut, and he said that's what got the wolf started. That's what he said. And I've talked to him numerous times already. So he puts his phone number out for people to call. I mean, the guy is 100% legit. He is what you call a real, true American patriot, right? And he actually, he didn't believe any of this false flag stuff before. Now he fully believes it. Now he understands what this stuff is about. And I wish I know you've had him on your show. I wish you'd have him on again because he's in the dump right now. People are backing away from him. The only one that I know is still sticking with him is John B. Wells. He's got lawsuits coming out of the yin yang.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, really, Alex Jones, all the money he's got could actually help him through a lot of his.
Well, let's be very careful about how much money Alex Jones has because he just went through that rather horrendous divorce, and because of the circumstances leading to the divorce, the courts basically ruled against him. We don't actually know what Alex Jones has to work with right now. We know he's got his studio and all the rest of that, but we don't know what his cash position is. And that may be the reason that he is backing off Sandy hoax. He may have been threatened with a lawsuit, or one of his financial backers is saying, we're going to give you another couple of million if you will back away from Sandy hoax. That's the problem when you start getting large amounts of money to build up your network with, is it comes with strings. And that's why you look at the small-scale operations like whatreallyhappened.com, and you understand they don't have a leash on them.
Right. But, what about John B. Wells? John B. Wells lets it all out, too. I mean, he doesn't play. I think one of the problems, too, is Jones is on too many AM, FM stations now, and he has to deal with their advertising, their sponsors and stuff.
Very good, yeah.
And I think they might put some control. I think he just wants to be too big, too quick.
Well, I've been saying for a while that I think Jones wants to cross over. He wants to be corporate media. And I think that's why he went ahead and agreed to do the Megyn Kelly interview, is that he has dreams of shedding his independent, alternative, standing there with a bullhorn image and actually become part of the corporate media. And I certainly wish him.
He wants to do that.
What?
You really think he wants to do that? You really think he wants to do that? I mean, he's the one. It's Alex Jones more than anybody else that brought me into understanding what this government was doing. It was Alex Jones that made me start questioning 9/11 and some of the other matters, and even going back to Oklahoma City and all that. It was listening to people like Jones, and then I started getting into other things on the internet. Remember, I didn't even know what a mouse was up until about 2004, 2005.
Okay.
When they talked about a mouse, I was wondering, what are they talking about? Okay, so I didn't know about that much. But once I started getting into the net, and once I started getting into listening to people like Alex Jones, that's what turned me on to what was happening. Okay, that's what, and I just can't believe he would do that. I mean, you might be right. I hope not. But I really can't believe that he's going to. Does he actually think he's going to keep his audience to be that sad? He's going to lose everything. If he tries to, give up what he should start going back to being the Alex Jones of old. Grab the bullhorn. Stop trying to be friends with the Trump people. And I don't know whether the Trump people aren't putting pressure on him too to tone it down. That's my suspicion also. That the White House is getting to him.
Yes.
Because I really don't know. But the fact of the matter is, for the most part, he's still pretty good. I mean, he's not campaigning for war against Syria or war against Russia. He does think that the Syrian, that the gas attack was a false flag. However, he seems to think that it's okay for Trump to bomb the Syrian airfield anyway. So,
well, if Alex Jones is cozying up to the Trump administration, to me that is another indicator that he sees an opportunity especially as the existing corporate media is clearly in decline. I think Alex is seeing himself as possibly becoming the new face of the new corporate media. Anyway, Mark, we're going to let you go here. We've got another call we need to get through. We're going to do a quick shout-out now to our on-air affiliates just now rejoining the network. And Frank in North Carolina, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Megan Kelly, Steve Pachenik, Alex Jones. Yeah, I'm very, I followed, I basically studied. I tape recorded on cassettes Alex Jones shows for many years. In fact, I had many with the dates, all of them had the dates. Alex Jones, who the guests were, your name was on quite a few of them. I took them all to the dump recently. I had hundreds and hundreds of them. So I know Alex Jones. I've studied him quite a bit. I used to defend him all the time on the internet. When I was on the internet, I used to write like blogs about defending Alex Jones and justifying his positions and his, being compromised, selling out on a lot of different issues, until I couldn't do it anymore. But Dr. Steve Pachenik's a very interesting guy. Megan Kelly, by the way, she is the epitome of a prostitute. I mean, yes. She's probably sociopathic, might be a psychopath. She's a terrible, horrible person. But anyway, Dr. Steve Pachenik, yeah, I think he was associated with the creation of Delta Force. He was associated with the CIA, State Department. He was head of PSYOPs, I think, in the military at some point. I mean, this guy, psychiatrist, medical doctor, goes on and on and on and on and on, his credentials. He talks about 9/11 being a false flag inside job and all that. He does dismiss Sandy Hook. He says it didn't happen. He says he was associated still in the intelligence circles when that happened. And he says he knows for a fact that it didn't happen. I don't know. I'm not saying I believe everything Steve Pachenik says either, but I'm very skeptical of Sandy Hook and all these things. But Steve Pachenik made some very interesting observations about his buddy Alex Jones yesterday, and I think it made Alex very uncomfortable. He went down a list. He says, Megan Kelly does not know what she's up against. For one, Alex, she doesn't realize that you are an expert at PSYOPs. And she does not understand, what your talent of mixing fact and fiction. And see, that's been one of my criticisms of Alex for many years. In order to make things more palatable, whatever you can justify it any way you want. But he does mix. He knowingly mixes facts with fiction. He does it a lot.
Well, Megan Kelly got him to admit that on the air, and that's a major disaster. I wish Alex hadn't done that.
Yeah, well, she's come out of it stinking pretty badly as well. Yeah,
the ratings just weren't there, and I think network management is in a panic over her. They don't know what to do. It's $15 million. That's what her contract is worth, and now they don't know what to do with her.
She has no credibility. She'll never have any credibility again. She's proven that she's a liar,
Yep.
So she'll do anything she can. She's very ambitious, and she will sell. She'll do anything. I mean, she has no standards, no morals, no ethics as far as journalism, anything like that. So anyway, all right. Thanks.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Alex in San Antonio. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I was calling because I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but there was these attacks in Syria where one of our F-16s or F-18s maybe
F-18.
brought down an F-18 brought down an Su-22 over the weekend, and here's what I'm kind of thinking. I'd like to know what you think. Is it possible that there's the desperation within the paramilitary forces that have gone rogue within the Pentagon that are driven by the rogue intelligence personnel? Do you think that they're trying to set Trump up? They're going to say, well, we're going to fight this war with or without your consent, with or without the consent of the American people?
It's certainly a real possibility. I mean, this was flat out a dumb thing to do. The Pentagon is trying to claim that this Sukhoi 22 was a threat to the U.S.-backed rebels who are still, again, enemies of the state of Syria. but the Syrian government, the Russian military, and even the Kurds are all saying that the Sukhoi was actually attacking ISIS at the time the U.S. shot it down.
Right, which is why I'm saying they were the intelligence forces were the rogue intelligence forces were under attack, and this is why they had to use perhaps something that would be considered more of a government military equipment in order to handle that.
Well, one of the areas that Russia is very concerned about, as you know, there was this agreement where the Russian forces and the U.S. forces would communicate with each other to keep their planes out of each other's way, and Russia is very upset that the U.S. did not, in fact, notify Russia ahead of time of the coming shoot-down, and so Russia has basically dropped that whole agreement, and they're saying that any U.S. aircraft of any kind that flies west of the Euphrates River will be tracked and targeted. Now, they stopped short of saying we're just going to automatically shoot anything down that you fly over there, but obviously if a U.S. plane flies west of the Euphrates and attacks some of the forces on the ground, then yes, it risks being shot down, and apparently the U.S. is already pulling some of their planes back.
See, that's the thing. That's what kind of sends you this message where it's like, okay, there's forces within the Pentagon that don't want they don't want to participate. They don't want to have any equipment near a place where it could get commandeered by, like I said, rogue agents. And then you have
well, no, that's not true. They just sent a 7th shipment of machine guns and armored vehicles to the U.S.-backed rebels.
Yeah, Mike, but that's all. I mean, I've worked in the distribution industry. I know how it could be very simple to get something from one place, procure it in another place, and then have it sent through by someone else in another way, and have it made to look like, hey, look, these people just sent us this. You know, so I mean, that's more of an optics thing. You know, what I wanted to ask you next was, how about this ship over in Japan that got rammed supposedly?
Yes.
That the hole in that ship does not look like it was like that was an accident. You know what I mean? Like it's that's what I'm trying to say. Like, do you think that perhaps they were using the intelligence forces were using these merchant ships, and they got up, the Navy got in their face, and that's what happened?
No, I don't agree with you on that one. I think it was a genuine accident. The question is, the USS Fitzgerald.
How did that happen?
Hang on. What was 2 o'clock in the morning? You know, everybody's like, you know, on that graveyard watch. Obviously, somebody wasn't paying attention on both ships. There should have been lookouts out there, especially for the USS Fitzgerald. It's got sonar. Should have been hearing those screws in the water. The lookout should have been out there. Okay, so yeah, something really bad happened. Now, it looks to me like the cargo ship was on autopilot, which a lot of cargo ships are on autopilot for reasons of fuel economy and getting things. But that still doesn't obviate the need for lookouts. But again, we know the merchant marine is a little bit less dedicated and focused than the military marine. And obviously, at this point, I have to say somebody on the Fitzgerald really messed up. I mean, first of all, that this idea of a deliberate ramming, that cargo ship can't turn that fast. The Fitzgerald could outrace it. Somebody just wasn't paying attention.
Okay. Well, your analysis is very plausible. Like I said, it just seems very odd because of the timing and the whole optics of it. But thank you very much, Mike. You're having a great show.
Thank you very much. I mean, look how many accidents there are out there. The accidental ramming of the Kursk, the sinking of this Japanese fishing teaching boat here in Hawaii some years ago. Unfortunately, there does seem to be an issue in terms of navigating and guiding some of these U.S. warships, especially submarines. Anyway, we're going to take a break for commercials. We've got another caller waiting on the line. We'll be right back after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones here. Alan in Texas, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Michael, just on that ship, you know, kind of brings back memories of the Pentagon, hey? You know, because aren't you pretty sure that they've got satellite tracking systems that tracks everywhere those ships go, anything that comes into contact with it, kind of like probably every mosquito and every gnat that gets within a quarter mile of the Pentagon is tracked and traced where it came from, where it goes, and what it did while it was on the Pentagon grounds. But I was going to talk about the gentleman before Frank. I can't remember his name. You were talking about Alex Jones and how he you think that he might think that he's becoming the new mainstream and everything. Well, I don't have the way to do it, but I'm pretty sure it was on last Wednesday, like a minute 36, a minute 38, right in that 2 or 3 minute time frame. I heard him say, I believe he was probably talking about the shooting in Virginia, of course, and I forgot. I didn't write down exactly what he was talking about, but I heard him say, well, other MSM are talking about it too. Because someone was complaining about something, and he said, well, other MSM are talking about this too. Slip of the tongue, who knows?
There's the giveaway. Okay.
Yeah, and also, I don't discount anyone because he does get information out. So I use my own brain to filter out what's fact and what's folly as much as I can. But you're in Hollywood. When he comes out and says things, I heard him say, well, everyone knows that the Saudis basically run Hollywood. I just that was like, yeah, well, okay, from now on, anything he says, I definitely question. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in Hollywood anymore. I'm in Hawaii.
Well, but you were there, and
I was there for a long time. Yes.
Did you see the Saudis in control out there?
No, absolutely not.
Didn't think so.
Nope.
I've got cousins that work out there, and last time I talked with him, he said, man, I'm getting really sick of the Jews out here. He said, man, just the attitudes and the way they treat people, it's just really pissing me off.
Well, again, I have to come on out and say, yeah, there are some real nasty people out there, like, there was that whole Bagelman scandal over at the Warner Studios, but there are some very wonderful people. And anytime somebody talks to me about the Jews in Hollywood, I go back to thinking about dear friend Renee Valenti, who passed away a short time ago, so I can talk about her now without ending her career. And she was an absolute love. Everybody loved her. And she was kind of my Hollywood mom. And, in fact, she was one of the few people who stayed in contact with me after my blacklisting. And, we stayed very, very close friends up until she passed away. And somebody says, Jews this, Jews that. I remember Renee Valenti was a wonderful, wonderful human being. And she did it the right way. Yeah, she was ethical. She didn't cheat anybody. She was just very, very good at what she did.
I understand that perfectly. Like I said, we tend to paint things with a broad brush, but then I've done the disclaimer. It's like, well, the good Jews know who they are, and they've got to know that, as a majority, their religion has done nefarious things, in the past and is doing them now. We all know that there's good people out there who call themselves Jews, and there's bad people that call themselves Jews. But, I've done that before, and I've had people jump down my throat, well, do we have to give this disclaimer every time? If they're a Jew, they're a Jew. And it's like, and I'm like, no, what is with you? But, I understand the whole process. I understand that there are good people everywhere, in every religion. I mean, there's good Hindus, good Muslims, there's good everyone. It's just, as a general rule, what we see going on in the world, can we make generalizations? Well, we do, because, I mean, what else do you do? As a group, yeah. But, the good ones know who they are.
Yeah, they really do. Another one, Steven Spielberg. Literally he came on out to speak at a graduate-level film class. We got to talking. He invited me up to Universal, introduced me to Jack McMasters, Verna Fields, and was very instrumental in getting my career in special effects started. So again, you have to say, there are good people, there are bad people, and focus on the good ones. Focus on the good ones.
Yeah, I agree, but you can't forget about the bad ones out there either, because that's what they want you to do.
Yeah, you got to watch out. You got to watch out.
Maybe in the back.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we've got 2 more callers, but I'm going to wait until after we come back from this next break, because we don't really have enough time to go on in there. Hollywood is kind of a weird experience. Everybody there is either an angel or a shark. There's almost no middle ground, and it's just something that you need to be aware of. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We've got a couple of callers waiting on the line. Before I get to them, though, Fox News is actually running a story pointing out that Robert Mueller is hiring all these Hillary donors and supporters for his staff. And he's going to create a situation where nobody is going to trust him to be fair, impartial, and objective. It is a witch hunt. It's a hatchet job. Meanwhile, over at CNN, after months and months of attacks on President Trump and Russia this and all the rest of that, and he made James Comey feel uncomfortable and constitutes obstruction. Apparently, CNN ran an online poll, should Donald Trump be investigated for obstruction of justice? Over 70% of the respondents said no. So it's another indicator that the corporate media is no longer able to control what we are thinking, as Mika Brzezinski declared was their job some months ago. All right, let's see. We're going to go to Lenny in Los Angeles. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing okay.
Hey, listen, I want to bring up something no one has said pertaining to the two ships that collided. When the story broke last Friday night, according to ABC News, Mirror, whatever his name is, Bill Mirror, the guy who does the national news, said that according to maritime law, the bigger ship, the cargo ship, has the right of way.
Yes, that's true.
Because of, in case of emergency, it has a more difficult time maneuvering. So that should answer that question as to who was at fault.
You're absolutely correct. There is an order for right-of-way on various ships. Sailboats under sail are very much up at the top because they can't always maneuver. But you're right. The cargo ships and the supercarriers, they are the unquestioned boss. You get out of their way. And again, my issue is the USS Fitzgerald is a warship. It's got skin paint radar. It's got sonar. It should have had lookouts. We know that there was a quarter moon overhead. So it's not like it was absolutely dark like when the Titanic happened. So somebody dropped the ball there.
Yeah, so to the former caller, we can move on from that because according to maritime law, the Fitzgerald was at fault. So that's that. The next thing I want to move on to is what you were discussing with the caller about Alex Jones looking to be mainstream. And I am inclined to agree with you simply because I've been studying people like Alex Jones for a long time, and like many of your shows I have recorded, many of his shows I have recorded. Okay, so it's easy for me to go back to the archives and pick up tendencies. And the one tendency I kept picking up is that he always said that he and Matt Drudge were the leaders in alternative media. And Matt Drudge has never missed an opportunity to raise bait and then hide under the covers after he's done it. That's the first thing. Now, I think you're right. I think that there is an attempt to relabel mainstream media to a friendly form of alternative media, and they want to give it to the likes of Alex Jones and Matt Drudge, and I'm going to throw you a new term in here called alternative propaganda. That is the intent from my perspective. Okay?
Well, there's absolutely no question that a lot of the independent media are being acquired or co-opted. Again, we saw this amazing transition over at Breitbart. They're trying to buy it all up, but there's just too much of it out here. And every time they compromise a given independent media outlet, 3 more rise up to take its place.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Instead of people like me who listen and choose who's getting out the most truth, no matter what the cause, as you quoted the other day, let justice be done, though the heavens fall. Okay? This is where we are. We're either on the right side or we're on the wrong side. We're either on the side of truth or we're on the side of falsehood. We're on the side of reality or the side of what they call fake news. Okay, so basically, they are trying to choose for us what they consider. There's nothing they can do about the alternative media, but now they want to guide who they think we should choose as being the alternative media. But I've already made my choice, so that's beside the point when it comes to me. Now, another thing I want to get to, and I know you got a long show, but let me just say this: the shooter. I'm not so sure I want to blame it on psychotropic drugs. And I'm going to tell you why. I think it's simple. I think it's simple programming of the wetware. and it only works on the minds of the weak. And you got people like this guy whose default setting is a simple need to be something in life. Okay, you look at the TV, and you see people like LeBron James making $50 million a year shooting a basketball. People throwing a baseball making money. People like the Kardashians, they're doing nothing, and they feel the need to be somebody, even if it's on the side of infamy. They just feel the need to be somebody. So I think that only on the minds of the weak can you program the wetware to think that you're doing the world good by doing what he did, and I mean, I'll get to something else later in another call, but that takes me to the so-called assassination of Caesar, and I'm looking at
hang on, before you go there, I understand what you're saying. The problem is, looking back at Hodgkinson's life, he doesn't have the pattern of an attention seeker. He lived most of his life just working at his job, working in construction, and he was involved politically, but he doesn't fit the pattern of somebody who just wants everybody's attention on himself. And again, I don't know that prescription antidepressants had anything to do with this, but I think it's a legitimate question to ask if he was on them.
And okay, and I can go with that, but all I'm asking you to do is entertain the thought that, because we have a lot of people out here like this. They just, they want to be important. They want to, it's not saying, they just feel the need to, they feel their worth is of nothing. Because everything we see that is of worth is just false. So all I ask is that you entertain the thought. But in any case, I want to get back to the so-called assassination of Caesar, and all the assassins are black men and white women. That bothers me. Okay,
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you talking about the play that was going on in?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah, take a look at it. And once again, I think we're being set up as weapon systems against one another. Just think about it.
Well, certainly we're seeing from the left this encouraging of violence as a legitimate form of expression, and it is very, very dangerous. They could start a civil war that way. But again, I'm kind of glad that some people went in to that Shakespeare presentation and just kind of disrupted it. Because I think it was very inappropriate. It's inappropriate for them to have Caesar dressed up as the president and then have the assassination. I think what Kathy Griffin did was very inappropriate. And again, when you have freedom of speech in this country, there's a goes withness, which is the responsibility to choose carefully what you say or what you do, and not just go on out there with all kinds of nonsense and lies just because you think you have a right to lie. Because you don't. The First Amendment is about protecting the truth, not protecting lies.
Right. Real quick, I ran across a cartoon over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it. It had a reporter, a mainstream media reporter, interviewing a Democrat in the form of a donkey in a suit. And the reporter said to the donkey in the suit, how could the shooter have developed so much hate for Trump and the GOP? Donkey said, I don't know. It's baffling. But in any case, hopefully, someone can see in the cartoon. I'll try and send it to you.
All right. Thanks an awful lot here. Lenny, we're going to let you go. We're going to switch over to Ralph in New York City. Ralph, thank you for being so patient. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Mike. How you doing? I want to ask you a question. Under Donald Trump, what would Agenda 21 would be like under? Would the Obama agenda will be applied under Agenda 21 with Trump in office, or it will be totally different?
Well, first of all, Agenda 21 has been delayed. They're already calling it Agenda 30. Again, Agenda 30 is coming out of the United Nations and the globalists. The only question is what politicians can be brought on board that agenda within their own countries. And unfortunately, some of the politicians who have come on board that agenda with all this immigration and other nonsense are now getting the heave-ho by their voters, and I think that's a very healthy sign.
And the impact on real estate in the inner cities, would that also be a loss or a benefit to the property owners in major cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and the inner city? What would that be like?
It's kind of very, very hard to say The problem is that anytime there's social upheaval and turmoil, property prices are going to go down. And so I don't think the globalists are going to be able to achieve their vision of a one-world government without a lot of chaos and bloodshed between here and there. And that is...
Well, George Soros is part of it too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No question.
So no, because they were saying that Donald Trump is trying to put lower jobs in manufacturing to the suburbs of lower America to get it away from the inner cities. And that's going to be a big hit on developers that have property development in major cities. Is that really true?
Yeah, obviously, if people are moving out of the cities, especially places like Chicago with the high violent crime rate, yeah, they're returning.
New York too.
They're returning to the rural existence. I mean, I'm a farm kid. I prefer living out in the country, in farming country, and yeah, it's a threat to the plans of the developers. The bankers, the money junkies, they want humans just crowded into these very tight, compact, high-density human ranches called cities because it's easier to make money off of them that way.
And millennials are probably the stupidest generation ever because it's all about paying more for less, and they want bigger rooftops and big parties, and they realize that these young kids are living with their mothers and fathers and hedge funds. They're the ones that are going to be affected big time, right, Mike?
Again, it's a very, very complex issue, and we're just going to have to let that unfold. Okay?
Wow. It's amazing. All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks an awful lot for the phone call here. Now then, getting on to the economic news, this is very alarming. Dianne Feinstein has sponsored a Senate bill which will require you, the citizen, to register your cash that is not being kept in a bank. And it basically, if you're found in violation, if you have unregistered cash or Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or whatever, you can go to jail for 10 years. And its initial implementation is that when you travel, if you have over $10,000, you have to basically reveal it to the security people at the airport, at which point you run the risk of civil forfeiture because that much money can be used for financing terrorism or drug dealing. So it's a darned if you do and darned if you don't situation because if you're traveling with money and you register it because of this new bill, then they can turn around and basically grab it under civil forfeiture. We are living in an age where the government is literally surviving by pillaging its own population. I'm afraid our various authorities, police, TSA, whatever, are behaving very much like Sir Guy of Gisborne's tax collectors, just riding across the countryside and stealing chickens and pigs and farmers' daughters wherever they feel like, because it is totally, totally out of control. Now, as you know, down in Texas, they're getting ready to start a gold depository because Texas is going to create an internal banking system where the accounts are backed by gold. And obviously the Federal Reserve would rather this not happen. The Federal Reserve is still upset about the Bank of North Dakota, where that won't go away. But people are turning away from this fiat debt-based currency. They're coming to understand it's not a monetary system, it is a system of enslavement. Now, as you know, in response to not really much at all, the U.S. has ramped up more sanctions against Russia, and it is causing a huge upset all across the European Union. Germany has issued a stinging rebuke of these new U.S. sanctions, and they're actually threatening economic retaliation against the United States if these new sanctions wind up harming German companies. We could literally see Germany and much of Europe pivot away from the United States and toward Russia. This is another indication of the decline of the American empire. Apparently, new oil pipelines going on in Nord Stream 2, another indicator that Germany will part from U.S. hegemony. story that came on out from Zero Hedge, stunning footage of America's crumbling infrastructure. And we've seen so many of these articles recently where they're out there showing how our country is literally being allowed to rot away. The crumbling pavements, corroded metal, abandoned buildings. And I was looking at all these pictures of our deteriorated, dilapidated nation. And I flashed back on Obama's, "You didn't build that." Remember when he came on out and said that? The idea being that the American people didn't really do anything all that useful, that it was all the government-provided infrastructure that made economic activity possible. Well, they did a really swell job, didn't they? So, no, we didn't build that. The government built it, and it's falling apart. It's rotting away. Okay, apparently somebody leaked a memo from George Soros' Open Society Foundation, arguing that the Europe refugee crisis should be accepted as the new normal. That's the new normal. Getting robbed, having your daughters raped, properties vandalized. That's the new normal. Just get used to it. That's what he's saying. And then it goes on to say how George Soros views the refugee crisis as new opportunities for his organization to influence immigration policies on a global scale. Now, out in California, one of the George Soros-linked organizations is behind the push to ban detaining illegal immigrants. He's out there with his money and just telling people, we're going to give you funding and you just leave the illegal immigrants alone. I think we ought to take up all these illegal immigrants and dump them on George Soros' home. He's got lots of land. I've looked at it in Google Earth. He's got lots of room. He could take in thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants, and I think we ought to send them up there. We'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're just getting a breaking story here. Remember that student, Otto Warmbier, was in North Korea, was sentenced to 15 years hard labor for hostile, well, basically he stole a political poster, a little bit of overkill, was released on humanitarian grounds, came back home. Apparently he has passed away in the U.S. hospital, so that's a tragedy. They did not get him back sooner here. Now we're talking about immigration, and the backlash is definitely starting to build. And apparently they had this mayor in Italy, and she was awarded the UN prize for welcoming migrants, and she's been voted out of office, apparently by quite a large margin. And apparently her agenda had been to basically use her town as a gateway to immigrants coming to Europe, and apparently the voters just got sick and tired of it all because there were all kinds of problems. Now then, the corporate media, they're going wacko over there. Brett Steffens, who's a immigration advocate, actually wrote a column in the New York Times saying that what we should do is deport Americans and bring the migrants in because they're going to work harder, they're going to have more babies, they're going to be satisfied with less, and that this is the way to save the United States of America is just get those Americans who expect too much from the country, expect too much from the economy. They want minimum wage. What? Is this the plan? Flood everybody with migrants, drive the people who expect decent standard of living out of the country or worse? This guy's talking about deliberately turning the United States of America into a third world country, which ultimately they're going to have to do in order to drop those borders. And this is in the New York Times. You know, this isn't the Midnight Sun over there at your supermarket checkout counter. Meanwhile, as of today, the Brexit talks have begun between Britain and the European Union. Apparently, they're going to stretch this out. They're talking about March 2019 as the deadline for coming to an agreement, which unfortunately gives the Remain people about a little less than 2 years to try and find a way to reverse this. And we're already hearing from Brussels and all these other countries, really, you ought to just give up this Brexit idea. It's really just kind of nonsense. Now, the History Channel just started their mini-series, if you will. It's America's War on Drugs. It's a 4-part series. And according to the trailer, they openly talk about how the CIA was bringing cocaine into this country, bringing opium into this country. This is amazing that the History Channel has the courage to do this. And we know it has been going on. Remember Dark Alliance, Arkansas, the Clintons, they're up to their necks in all of this. We're going to take a break for station identification.